Hello, everyone. Thank you for being with us. My name is Stella Olivia Kikoyo, and I'm the editor-in-chief of the Stella Woman magazine. So Stella Woman magazine is here to bring you thriving women's stories, knowledge, and experiences so that you too can be inspired, make a change in your life, and thrive. We believe that knowledge is power, and if knowledge is acted upon, it can transform lives. So we're here to move knowledge from one woman to another. In that way, we believe that we shall be able to brighten up the world, to make a difference in the world. So we are transforming lives by transforming knowledge. And today is a very, very special way. I am privileged and really thrilled to be interviewing two amazing stellar women. They are actually twins, and it's amazing to have two stellar women in front of me. It's the first time, and therefore I'm excited. I think you can see the excitement that I do have. So I do have Daniela and Annette, who are both originally, of course, they live in different parts of the world and they continue to be from Germany, but Annette lives in Florida, but she's here on holiday with Daniela to be able to answer all the questions that we have and all the aspects that we want to learn from them. So we are really lucky that they're able to provide their time out of their summer holidays to give us a dive of their lives, but also their knowledge that we can actually shift and utilize in our lives and make a difference in our lives. So welcome, Annette, and welcome, Daniela.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, so Annette and Daniela are actually founders for Felder and Felder, and I don't know if you actually are aware of this amazing organization, but if you're not, you're going to be diving into what it's all about and what it does and how they came about to start this amazing organization that has made a difference, an impact in the world. So welcome both of you. And I want to know if you personally can tell us who is Daniela and who is Annette. We'll start with Daniela. Can you tell us more about yourself?
Hello, I'm Daniela, and Annette and I, we both were born in Germany, actually in this city, because we're visiting our mom right now in a small town called Wipperfürth, which is near Cologne in North Rhine-Westphalia. And we traveled after high school and decided that we love fashion, and we really wanted to work in fashion and do something there. But at that moment, we didn't really know, or I didn't really know, like in which area specifically. So I traveled, or we both traveled, and then we applied to different fashion schools. And we first started studying in another town in North Rhine-Westphalia, which is called Bielefeld, where we started. And quickly we understood that we really love the creative part and the designing process, and we want to really focus on that. And in Germany at the time, I'm sure by now it's different, but at the time, Germany was a really good school, but it was more, like focused on the technical aspects, which is great to know, but we didn't really feel like that the creativity is pushed to the next level. So we applied, or I applied, at Central St. Martin's, and got accepted. So I moved to London and started studying at Central St. Martin's. Basically after that, we stayed in London and started our fashion brand called Felder Felder, which is our surname, Daniela Felder, Annette Felder. So together it's Felder Felder, to play a little bit with the twin, aspect of our brand. And pretty soon afterwards, we were invited by New Gen, which is a, a group of designers which is supported by the British Fashion Council to share showrooms with other designers who are part of New Gen in New York, London, and also Paris, which was obviously an amazing opportunity. And then just to cut a long story short, we ended up doing London Fashion Week on schedule for probably 10 years before we moved into a different direction with our designs, which is a bit more conscious, where I think the whole interest is coming from you now, Stella, because it's a very special process, that we went through. And after London, I lived for a few years in Miami, where Annette is based. But then I resettled during COVID, also to be closer to my mom's place in Germany, in Berlin, which is the capital of Germany. And yeah, it's amazing. I love it there. And in the winter, I go for 3 months to Annette to reprocess, what we've done over the year, and to work together from there. But during the rest of the year, I'm in Europe, mainly Berlin, and work from there on our brand together. That's me, Daniela.
Thank you, Daniela. Thank you, Daniela. Anita, do you want to add anything to that? But just tell us, who's Anita here?
Yeah, she said it pretty much all. It was a very similar story. We've done, most of our traveling and studying together. I applied for a different course at Central St. Martin's, which was quite complementary. So that was really nice. And then while we were studying, we decided to found our label. So that was a really great platform and starting point for us. And London was definitely an amazing place to get started with the brand. And yeah, so basically after being a part of London Fashion Week for such a long time, I relocated to Miami with my husband and my daughter, and I'm still living there. And thanks to modern technologies, we are able to still work together, just like we have our interview now. So that is very fortunate. But of course, I'm always happy when we can be together, like today in our children's room in our mom's house.
That's so great. It was a great story to hear how it has all evolved. Could you tell me a little about your backstory as children? Mm-hmm. Yeah, what were your key interests? What was, okay, I think I've learned something. You always loved fashion.
I think when we were little kids, young kids, we grew up with a very, very fashion conscious mother. But ourselves, we didn't have a fashion identity. We were dressed the same, just like you did it in the 80s with twins. It was not like this whole, no, they have their own identity and, let's focus on not dressing them the same. So we weren't bothered by it at all because fashion wasn't, as kids, it wasn't top of our mind. We were absolutely always in nature, in our corduroy pants and t-shirts, and would rather cry when we had to wear a dress. So we were out with our dogs in the fields, in the forest, and in Germany it's very independent. So kids run around by themselves, in nature. And that was, I think, really, really the origin for our love for nature. And yeah, I think that connectedness to nature really derived from that, even before our love for fashion blossomed when we were teenagers. And that because at the time there wasn't the internet and Google and all of this, and we didn't have access to seeing amazing images of fashion or magazines. So it was before cable TV even. So we looked at our father's record collection and saw these covers of super cool rock bands from the 60s and 70s. And that's where our love for fashion started. Yeah. And that was the end of dressing the same.
That's an amazing story.
Yeah, it was really, we were so inspired by all these super individual personalities from all these rock covers. And then I think probably MTV started around that time as well, or it was before, we had access to cable TV. So once MTV hit our little village in in Germany where we are right now. We were like so blown away by all these like super exotic like sense of dressing and like the neo hippies like Lenny Kravitz, and we were like obsessed with Lenny Kravitz, and we're just listening to his music. And then because we were such fans of Lenny Kravitz, we started like also like researching who he is inspired by. And then, you know, we came across like Jimi Hendrix, Curtis Mayfield, and like Janis Joplin, and all these like Led Zeppelin, all these original bands. And we just wanted to look like them, but like in our village, you couldn't find anything that was like just remotely like that, because it was really at the time, that was like the early 90s or something. It was regarded as something very very eccentric and very different, and in a village everyone wants to kind of like fit along and look the same and like just don't be different. But we were like, yes, we want to be different. So we convinced our mom to go with us like to vintage stores and secondhand stores in Cologne, which is the nearest city to here. And to her huge like disapproval, we started like buying very cheap like secondhand clothes, or we went even to the attic of our grandmother and mother, where we could find like stuff that they had in the 70s, 60s, 70s, which they kept but like didn't like anymore, like velvet bathrobes from like the 60s suddenly became our kaftan in purple with like Indian embroidery on it, and like all these crazy things, you know, which they didn't really approve of, but you know, we were like super excited about it. And then we started like tie-dyeing our own clothes and like, you know, like deconstructing. So basically upcycling already like back then, because obviously my mother's and grandmother's clothes didn't fit us. So we kind of like started upcycling our own clothes from vintage clothes. So it was already back then, without knowing it, we were already like kind of involved in like sustainable clothing. So that was the beginning of our love for fashion. It was through music, actually, through our love for music.
That's a very good story. The love of music, how it brought about your love for fashion, and the upcycling, like the fact that you cut clothes and actually make the new ones look different, or make the old ones look different. Yeah. That's very cool. That's very creative. Okay, thank you for that. Was it very easy? Please share with us the story on how you founded Felder Felder. Was it easy to come up with the name? Was it like, this is it? Or how did you come up with the name? And yeah.
I think, as Dani mentioned, the name came from, you know, just us playing on being twins and, you know, the double thing. So that was, I think, pretty quick. Starting the label, I think sometimes when you think about it for a long time, it's more scary than just doing it. And I always tell people that we sort of like jumped into the pool and learned swimming while we were in the pool. We didn't think about, can we actually swim? So we were, you know, literally we were still at Central St. Martin's. So yeah, it was definitely a journey, but we were just, you know, doing it. So we didn't even have time to sit back and think about, you know, is this like this right strategy? It was very, just very exciting.
And I feel like a lot of the people, you know, like who graduated around the same time as us in London, that it's the same thing, because at Central St. Martin's, you got really like pushed to either work for a big brand, you know, like back then Galliano or McQueen, or, you know, Stella McCartney, like any of those big brands, or to start your own brand. So they kind of took away, like, I think in Germany, if we would have continued in our fashion journey in Germany, I think they would have like scared us to death, like when we would have said we want to start our own brand. Whereas in London, I feel like you got encouraged to do your own thing and just go for it. You can, like, if it doesn't work out, you can still work for someone else, you know. You have a great college degree from an amazing school. So if it doesn't work out, well, you know, like there is a whole other life out there. But I don't feel like we were ever like told to hold back or something. We were always like, go for it, girls, you just go for it, you know. And I feel like a lot of people from our generation, they just went for it. So for us, it was almost like normal, because like there were so many people at the time just going for it, you know.
That's very good. That's very good. Encouraging, just stepping into the pool and learning to swim is a good one. And not just being worried and overthinking, which many of us end up doing, and not starting and not getting anywhere at the end of the day. Exactly. Oh, fantastic. Thank you for that. And please describe to us the Felder Felder brand and the type of clients that you attract, or that you're targeting, that the brand targets.
Do you want to go for it? Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure if you mentioned it, but because we went through such a transition with our brand, I feel like there's also a shift in, you know, who is interested in our line and whom we work with, who our clients are. Because as we started out at London Fashion Week and did the catwalk shows, and at that time, it wasn't really about being a conscious brand. It was more about, you know, finding our identity and showing that, and being a fun collection, being edgy, just doing what we love. Mainly because at the time we weren't familiar with the effects that fashion has on the environment and the planet, because our personal lifestyle was always quite aware. So at that time, it was a very different crowd of people that were, you know, following our brand. And when we became aware of the effects that fashion has on the environment, we sort of shifted first bit by bit into trying to do more sustainable things while maintaining our style and our identity, which at the time was very challenging because there were not the same textile developments yet that are there that they have now. And so we tried to think outside of the box, went back to upcycling, you know, tried to work with vegan leather materials, even though at the time they weren't sustainable. But, you know, that was sort of like one of our first commitments. And over the years, when we decided we want to take a step further and try to, you know, have a stronger impact with what we're doing, really doing the entire line only with sustainable materials, or 80%, because, you know, the last 20% in the zips or buttons can always hold you up. So at least with that, then we also met new people, attracted different clients, and formed new partnerships. So I think there was definitely a transformation there that took time, because it wasn't a transition that was from one day to the next.
Definitely, thank you. And Daniela, do you want to add anything to that?
Well, just to add, like, you know, that we have definitely, you know, dressed like a lot of musicians as well, which of course is such a reward when you think that, you know, we started out like feeling like so inspired by musicians, and then fast forward 20 or 15 years, we're dressing the likes of Florence Welch from Florence and the Machine, and, you know, like Rihanna and Jessie O, and like lots of different, you know, people. It's an amazing reward, you know, to have that circle, you know, like closing.
Yes, that's really amazing. That's amazing. And it's good to see the transformation, the changes that you have to be aware of your environment and adopt to change. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, definitely. And could you tell us more about the fact that there wasn't enough textile development around the sustainable fashion, and what was that like at the beginning? Because when you just say, yeah, it was challenging, it might not be felt. So what are some of those challenges that you might have faced, that for anyone who is thinking about the same shift that they might become more aware of, or also see that they can overcome because you've overcome them?
So for us, it was especially difficult because we've never done like, casual wear. We've always done like stunning cocktail and evening wear, which people wear out to party and have fun, or go to events or galas or dinners, awards, stuff like that. Of course, there are some clothes which were transitional. You could wear in the daytime, and then continue in the evening. But we never did like something really basic, like basic wear, like t-shirts and like, like that was never really our style. And at the time where we changed our brand around, there was, like there are fabrics that are like organic, but in the field of like high fashion and like really, like high-end luxury fabrics, which are stunning and like really catch your attention, there was not so much on offer. And even the basic fabrics, let's say, like organic cotton, still now it's 5 times at least as expensive as like normal cotton. So the difference of like just normal fabrics, like an organic cotton would cost as much as like a really luxurious French silk fabric. So you're just like, oh my God, the difference in price is so huge that there's absolutely no point to just do like selling collections, because a dress that cost before, like, let's say, just to give a number, like, let's say 300 pounds in the store would now cost like 1,000, which obviously, like none of our customers would be happy about. And I wouldn't want to make that change of price, but it was just like really unrealistic to keep the same price point. And we were like, okay, we really need to change around a lot. And especially not only that, but like finding materials that are plant-based, because we didn't want to use vegan, because we became vegan also in that time. I mean, we were vegetarian since we were like 15, but like we became vegan and we didn't want to use like animal products like leather or silk anymore. And to find like plant-based alternatives that are not deriving from like petroleum was next to impossible at the time, so it was a real journey. In the meantime, now if people think about that transition from like normal brand to sustainable brand, or just starting out, there is much more on offer. The prices are still very, very high, very high. But at least there is much more possibilities as there were like just 8 years ago or 5 years ago. Like just in the last 5 years, our specialty is like to work with the newest innovations of plant-based materials, because we really want to show the world what is possible to use in the organic field of like high-end fashion. But it had to be a complete different concept as we did before. We don't do wholesale selling collections stores anymore. We do like limited editions, work made to measure with like clients, or even have a lot of corporate partners that we do partnerships with that are aligned with our vision, and we do something together, like to have a bigger impact together. So we really had to change around our entire brand to make it work for us, because just to sell the same dress as you did before for like 3 to 4 times the price wasn't realistic.
And definitely you wouldn't be sustainable. You would get out of business, and
Exactly.
Exactly. It wouldn't work. Oh, great. Thank you so much. That's really helpful. It helps to actually see what is it that someone actually faces. And yeah, today it's different. Things have developed. And of course, even today, there are more challenges coming up, but it's great that you managed to overcome those challenges. So the next question is, what prompted the be true to yourself and have fun with it brand philosophy? Is it still the brand philosophy?
The be true to yourself.
Yeah, be true to yourself and have fun with it.
Be true to yourself and have fun with it. Yes, it is, but it's also like, for a kind and sexy planet, which is like, because we really try to be kind, not only to ourselves, but also the people we work with. And also actually all, you know, like animals and environment who are part of this world, you know. So you can be kind, but still can be stylish and sexy and fashion forward, you know. So it's not a contrast necessarily, you know. So
Yeah.
we try to do things that are for a great planet, but also for a kind planet, you know.
Yeah, for the kind planet. So they make you feel good, but they have to be kind to the environment, to
Exactly.
everything, and
Exactly. And we
everyone.
feel
The
that
whole,
our customers, you know, they do feel good about wearing the clothes that have a story, that have a positive story, and they love talking about that. And I think what we have been told is that they feel empowered to share the story as well. So it's more than, oh yes, where's your dress from, or thank you, you're wearing a beautiful dress, thank you. No, actually this is from you know, from a pineapple or from a banana, and you know, it's a whole story behind it, and we feel that's clients really love that.
yeah, very good. Thank you. And with sustain, I know this is now deep into actual processing. When you talk about sustainable fashion and you're getting it from natural plant-based, how long, isn't that a very long process? How patient do you have to be as you're going through all this process? Yeah, you could give me one example, because I'm sure you have a breadth of all of this, but one particular garment that is coming from one particular, maybe not one particular plant, but you can make up 2-3 plants, I don't know, together. And because I'm also a lecturer at the business school, and I've taught in fashion modules. And one of the things I've taught about was tea, a blouse made from tea, fermented tea. And my brain was just like all over the place. How long do I wait for this for this process? So tell us a bit of one bit of the process that you go through to produce one particular garment, because I'm sure you have so many examples.
Yes, that's actually a really interesting question, because there are so many different aspects of how we work. But just to give you a general answer first, and then a more specific one. Normally, we work with fabrics and materials from suppliers that already exist. So we don't have to wait for like a year for the tea to be fermented and then made. Normally, we approach people when they're quite in the beginning still. So that it's like a really new development that we are discovering, but it already exists. But for example, now the latest, like one of the latest ones was like a mango derived material, which is leather-like, which was just not ready for like the last 1.5 years. And I was always in touch with the people who are doing it. And they were very communicative. They were like, it's just not ready yet. It's not good enough. We need to develop it more. And finally, they were like, okay, we can send you some. So I was waiting for it. But there's other ways where we look at the suppliers and we're like, oh, we love that material. We want to work with it. And it exists already, you know, so that's an easier way. When it already exists, it's definitely the easiest. You can just buy it. If it's still in progress, or if they have so small quantities, we really want to work with a mycelium now. And the mycelium supply chain is still so small that they literally just produce what has been ordered for, let's say, a bigger client, and they just produce this, and then you are in a waiting loop for like a year before they actually can take on your order. So there is definitely challenges with this, you know. But then there's also completely different ways of designing, which we've done with one of our cooperation partners, who's called Dr. Hauschka Bala. I don't know if you've heard about it. It's actually like a cosmetic brand. And they are an amazing cooperation partners of ours, and we have been working with them for quite a while. And we, I think my niece just went through the picture, sorry. And basically we decided together that we want to do a completely biodegradable dress, because, you know, like they work with plants in their cosmetic products, and we work with fabrics that are biodegradable, but we really want to bring it to the next level. And we decided to do a dress that has actual plant materials that are not like transferred into a fabric, but actually are still plants into the dress. And so we've worked, because Annette lives in Miami, and our cooperation with Dr. Hauschka started in Miami. And the person we did the dress for is called Barbara Becker. She lives in Miami, but is German. So her mom lives in Berlin. So like there was this whole connection between like Germany and Miami. So Annette brought, because I did the design in Germany locally, because it was for a German event, a gala event in Germany. So I designed the dress, which was made out of organic linen, so completely biodegradable. Annette brought from Miami coconut fiber, which is actually coming from a palm tree in Miami. She collected it herself.
Yeah.
And then I went to Dr. Hauschka's headquarters in Germany, which is outside, 1 hour outside of Stuttgart. And I went to their healing plant gardens and collected by hand healing plants that they use in the products, and dried them, like my whole flat was full. I hand dried them, I dried them, waited, and then I used the natural latex to apply them to the dress. And I will send you pictures, but it's absolutely stunning, the result. And Barbara got amazing feedback from even the Daily Mail and the German press as well. So it was an all-around success for all of us, which was just so beautiful. And that was really telling a story.
That's very good. Wow, thank you very much for that full description. And it's helped me, and I'm sure it will help other people to really know what you've given us the two ways in which you produce, but the last bit actually helps to transform our brains to actually fully understand what it takes to produce a garment that is sustainable, that is plant-based, what it actually takes. Yeah. Wow. Picking the coconuts, transporting them. All of this detail is just amazing. So
and they're not always there. You really have to go out and search and, see what nature gives you.
Yes, this is very good. Thank you. This is great change for all of us, for the environment. I don't know where it will go in 10 years' time, 20 years' time, but it's good that you are enforcing that change in all of us, changing our perspectives on possibilities here. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so I know that this particular example you've just demonstrated can help us answer the question, but to be more specific, as you come up with your Felder Felder brand, how do you complement each other? Are there specific lines of Daniela and Annette? How do you complement each other to fully come up with this and with what you produce to the market?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I mean, I mentioned that we studied different courses at Central St. Martin's.
Yes, you did.
I studied fashion design with print. I studied fashion marketing and communication. So Dani is definitely the designer in the brand, where we bounce ideas together. We always say we start together, we brainstorm, we see what the mood is, and then with those ideas, often we do a mood board together, or I do a mood board specifically for it. And then Dani takes that away and starts drawing. And then we add it together. And then she would take the selected versions and, start from, using the material. We look through the materials together. And then she would take it from the initial drawing to making the first, taking it to the production, doing the first fitting, the first design, and transforming it into an actual garment piece.
Basically from an idea into an actual piece. Yeah, that's definitely my part.
That's very good. That's good.
I come up with conceptual ideas for partnerships often, and for our own brand. So from the communication side, so it complements each other.
But we do all the editing and the, you know, like the brainstorming, we always do together, you know, because it's always good to have, you know, like 4 eyes instead of just 2, you know, and Annette is definitely a very good editor, you know, like I can sometimes go off and she will always bring it back that it's like brand identity and, you know, fits our brand, you know, like that's her specialty.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing. So there's the part of conceptualizing and putting it in place, putting the idea in place of bringing it in real terms and actually marketing. So both of your talents and your skill sets, your gifts can just make it happen actually. Yes. And definitely, like you say, 2 eyes, but also 2 brains together. That's that's really awesome. That's awesome. You it's very good that you have each other.
Very, yeah.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, so we want to learn more about sustainability itself, because it seems to be a term or a word that can easily be lost in terms of what its significance is. And I know you gave us a brief in terms of the fact that initially you realized the impact of fashion had on the environment, but help the Stellar Woman readers today to really understand what sustainability is. Are you able to do that for us?
Yeah, it's a very broad term, you know, it's a very broad term, and I know it can be very overwhelming. So the first thing we encourage people who are interested in a more sustainable lifestyle is to just start with something that is feasible for them. You know, even if it's not in their fashion, maybe it's in the food they are eating, or you know the goods they buy. To start somewhere, you know, to not be overwhelmed by the big subject, but just get started somewhere.
And we always say that, especially when you want to understand more about sustainable fashion, you know, like the most important pillar of sustainability is human rights, you know, like to make sure that there's no slavery, which there is, and children work, which there is, you know, like involved in the brands that they want to buy. And that is like, you will be so shocked that most high streets, it's like, it's not avoidable that they work with factories that just don't, you know, like don't keep their word when it comes to those rights.
And to, you know, work and brands that don't work with living salaries, but with minimum salaries. So it's important to, you know, make sure that the brands are paying the living wages.
And I think this is also a real aspect of sustainability. And then, of course, there's, you know, like the materials that you use, that they're not poisonous for the environment, which is super important. But I think if you just don't have the head for everything, first make sure the human rights are kept, you know, like that is definitely the most important. Then to make sure that, you know, like you buy fabrics that are not really, like, if you think about it, most fabrics that are derived from petroleum, like viscose, you know, and, you know, PU, they are all really horrible. And like they, with every wash that you do, they get into the system, you know, like with all the microbeads and everything. So it's really not like, and then fish eat it, and then basically we eat fish that are polluted by plastic that we put into our washing machine. So it's like a whole like cycle. If we think, oh no, but it's not so bad, it is so bad, you know. I mean, like we obviously don't eat fish as vegans, but like I wouldn't even say anymore it's so healthy to eat fish because it's completely polluted by microplastics. And of course the animal rights for anyone who is also interested to not only harm, you know, like not to harm humans, but also not the environment, but also not animals, because they don't have a voice of their own to speak up for themselves. So I think this is also a very important aspect of sustainability. And then of course, try to keep the carbon footprint as small as possible, you know. So once we became sustainable, we stopped working with overseas productions. We work with productions that are close to where we are at the moment. So we have a production in London, in Miami, and in Berlin, and in Frankfurt, you know, so they are all in very close distance to us where we are at that time.
Oh my goodness. Thank you. We're in a classroom here. So thank you. I'm learning a lot. So you've fully given us the perspective of sustainability. And I also like the fact that let's not get overwhelmed. We can all start somewhere. We can start with something small. And when you're saying that, I kept saying, all right, what is the small thing I'm doing myself? I had to ask myself quickly that question.
That's great. Yeah, I think like, you know, basically the most sustainable thing is just not to buy as much as you do, you know, and like really think like, how can I find things that I have already in my wardrobe? How can I make them more interesting again for myself? And like really go through your wardrobe and see what you actually have, because I promise you, you will find things you've never ever worn. And like restyle them in a new way. Then if you happen to have a stylish mom like we have, shop in your mom's wardrobe, or your friends, yeah. You know, do clothes swap. All of these things are like before you go shopping, you know, like really, I mean, I'm not saying I'm buying my underwear and like bikinis, you know, but like there's so many things that your friends don't like anymore, and you put it on, you're like, I love it, you know, and you have something that they love, and then you can swap clothes around, which is a big thing by now as well. And then of course, vintage shopping is the most sustainable way of shopping because the clothes already existed for a long time. So that's a great way of shopping as well. But in general, you know, like the less you buy, the better it is for our planet, you know.
Good one, thank you.
And
I like clothes swapping.
If you buy something, make sure you invest into, you know, a piece that lasts you for a long time. Quality over quantity.
Yes, yes, yes. And I think that's where the wave, I don't know about what it is in Germany, but in the UK, definitely people want to spend less and keep changing their styles. Okay, so in building the brand based on a sustainable agenda, what are the key challenges and opportunities that you face as founders, as entrepreneurs in this particular area?
I think let's focus on the opportunities first. I think now it's probably a bit different than when we launched into sustainability quite a while ago, because now there is so many different support groups. There's so much more knowledge about sustainability that entrepreneurs who are just launching their brand can much more easily already have a platform and be understood by the customers as well as potential investors. It's not as foreign as when we launched into sustainability. So that is a great thing, and we're very positive and happy about the shift. Of course, you have to be careful about greenwashing because it is such a trend and it comes along with it. But in general, the public is much more educated, and therefore the consumer has a demand, and therefore there is also a financial upwind and support of brands that launch into sustainability.
There's a lot of, you know, like investment going on that focus solely on green and sustainable, you know, like enterprises. So, you know, depending on what you want to do, if you are planning to do like a very scalable business, you know, there's a lot of opportunity in the section of like green investments. So I think that's something new startups should definitely look out for, as there is a lot of support for that, you know.
Oh, thank you. That's good. That's good to know. And in terms of challenges?
I think with any business really, but especially with green businesses or eco-minded businesses, I just really have to do your due diligence, you know, because it just takes a lot more time, more effort. So depending if you are a small team or a bigger team, but you know, a lot of entrepreneurs start out by themselves or with one co-founder. there's a lot of due diligence you will have to do to find the right resources that are really suitable to whatever you want to do, and really do the walking to whatever they say they are doing.
Because you will confront people who want to find the, like negative things, so I think it's really important, like my sister already said, to walk the talk, because people will want to find, like errors or things that you are not doing green. So it's really important that you that you don't just say, oh, I'm doing this, but like that you really do it. And be transparent, because not everything is possible to do green. There are still some carbon footprint, challenges. There are some, like little challenges that are occurring, and that's normal. Like I think it's really important for people not to get frustrated and give up if they can't do everything in the beginning completely green and sustainable, but like rather to focus on the transparency. And that's completely, like I think like a lot of companies that we know that call themselves sustainable companies, they have like a guideline of how many percentage the whole product has to be sustainable for them to call it sustainable. And I think like the cutoff point is like 75% or 80%. So, but like then they will also say which of the, like 25 or 20% in the garment is not sustainable. And I think, and then they are like talking about how they are trying to improve that part of the garment. So I think it's really important to have that kind of transparency.
Wow, that's amazing. Amazing. Thank you for elaborating on that. And in particular, Felder, what kind of, is there a particular challenge that you faced that at one point maybe you felt like you couldn't continue? Is there a situation where you faced a challenge that maybe at some point you felt like this giving up, where entrepreneurs get to that point of almost putting their tools down, but then they have to overcome that particular dark part of the journey?
I think in the beginning it was really overwhelming when we switched not just to vegan but also sustainable collections and clothes, because it was just such a challenge to find materials that are sustainable and are like high fashion, and are in a price point that is actually affordable. So I think in the beginning everything felt really, really overwhelming. And like if you compare it and suddenly one dress costs as much to make as before half the collection costed to make, it's like a huge gap in difference, So I think what was the biggest challenge for us was to redefine what our brand is standing for and what we are trying to do, and to move away from wholesale and like seasonal collections to one-off limited pieces that are basically made to measure. And I think that transition was a huge challenge, and we needed to redefine our brand and like what is Felder Felder. And I think in the beginning people were not really understanding what Felder Felder is, because we were not running our brand anymore like a common fashion house, where you do seasonal collections, do like shows twice a year, and then you have like showrooms and then sell the collections to stores. And I think that move a lot of people didn't quite understand in the beginning, and it wasn't very common. Whereas now I feel like it becomes more common, and people are like, yeah, sure, who wants to have like 200 new pieces a year, like I think that slow fashion concept is slowly grasping onto people, but it wasn't in the beginning. So for us to make that step was a challenge, definitely. I will not lie about that, and it took a lot of courage, and I don't think I would have done it by myself. It was really good that we had each other to always encourage ourselves that we are making the right move, and that is what we want to move into.
Amazing. Thank you very much. And I think other entrepreneurs, people, founders who get into that situation can be able to see themselves being able to actually persevere and maybe getting someone else who is a supporter of your initiative to just help you continue with the right mindset to see yourself through to the next side. Thank you very much. I don't know if we take you back a little bit into the internship with the designers, is it Carrie Williams and Mila Stefan? Yes. Did that internship make a difference in terms of your all initial your journey as entrepreneurs and founders?
And first of all, I have to say, I'm very impressed. You did your due diligence. You did your research. That's really amazing. I love that you bring this up. Yes, I mean, Robert Carey Williams had a huge, huge impact on us. He actually was the reason that we were able to move to London because we did an internship with him. We were studying in Germany at the time, and were able, to get support to do an internship, no matter where. It could have been in Germany or abroad, but through the Leonardo da Vinci program, we were able to do that in London. And we met Robert Carey Williams.
Well, actually, we met him in Lisboa, where we were like modeling.
Yes. So,
and we did a little deal with them. We were like, okay, we model for you for free if you give us an internship. So we bribed our way a little bit in there.
And then calling every day, when can we come? When can we come?
Yeah. We were relentless.
And but basically he welcomed us to his studio and gave us not the responsibility that we were expecting as an intern, which is, making a cup of coffee, doing errands, but we were really allowed to be super part of the design studio, of doing the mood books for him, doing the research, going into sponsorship meetings, going into Central St. Martin's to he was a teacher in the master's class in the MA course. So,
he took us
with, so we really got to know the behind the scenes, and it was so inspiring. And his way of working was just very artistic and very, very inspiring. So we loved every second there. And it also definitely had with applying for Central St. Martin's, because we had a much deeper understanding of how to work as a designer. So it was a very big difference between like the more, the more, how do you say, like conservative way of education in Germany. And then in comparison to have that very, very free-spirited and unique way of artistic education in London, which was unique, and it was amazing. It was really, really special.
Oh, fantastic. That's encouraging. So it helps other people to see what internships can do, but also the perseverance. You said you kept calling and until you were given this opportunity. So you did everything that you could do to get the opportunity.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So, you just didn't sit and wait.
No.
That's very good. Thank you very much.
When we were, when we had interns in London, we had lots of interns that, really were persistent, and their portfolio was good, and, they had a good resume. And, we really gave them a chance when we had the feeling that they are really serious about wanting to do an internship. Because you have a lot of people who just don't know what they have to expect when they do an internship, and they want to go home after 1 week because it's just too hard work. So with people who are so persistent, you kind of and you tell them it's going to be tough, and they're like, I don't care, I want to work. You kind of put more trust into those interns. So I guess after we didn't give up in stalking Robert, he gave us a shot.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you very much for that. And then you also landed your sponsorship from Topshop, New Generation. Yeah. How significant was this as well to your brand growth?
it was an amazing time, an amazing period of London Fashion Week and, you know, with the British Fashion Council and New Gen through a Topshop. It really gave us a platform to be together with like-minded designers, you know, our designers at the same time, and enabled not just us, but all the designers that were part of the New Gen program to show their collections to top people from the industry, which is such an amazing model. And we were absolutely grateful to be able to be part of it. So it was really fantastic and brilliant for what we were doing at the time.
Absolutely, yeah.
Very good. Thank you. Now, you talked about dressing up some celebrities, especially musicians. You've dressed up celebrities like Rihanna, have you?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yes, we did. Yes.
Yes, and so that's amazing. So describe the feeling of your feeling when you first landed dressing up the first celebrity.
Yeah.
I think the first celebrity was probably.
Did you get like that?
I think so.
Yeah, I think the first
yes,
dress was
within Petra.
Which of course, you know, like it's not like that we meet Gwyneth Paltrow and she chooses something. It's mostly via the stylist. So, you know, like we have a lot of appreciation and respect for all the celebrity stylists that chose our clothes. 100%, you know, so that was always really special. But then sometimes, you know, you build a relationship with a stylist. I remember like Florence Welch stylist, Adele Johnson, she came to us, and at the time Florence was not very well known, and you know, like all the big brands still weren't so interested in her, and she came to Boris to get some clothes, and then, you know, like Florence loved the clothes so much that then we did a little collaboration where with a stylist and with Florence, we designed her a tour outfit. And so we actually got to meet Florence, which was incredible, you know, and did the made to measure dress for her tour, which was so amazing.
That's great. Thank you very much. There's so much, there some inspiration for fashion designers, young fashion designers, and those who are already advanced, really. Great inspiration. So where do you get the inspiration from? Do you have a particular source that it's mainly this for your designs?
Well, I think, I mean, at least for me, you know, I'm sure for Dani it's similar. When we did our catwalk shows, we often had inspiration stemming from music, or even if it wasn't musicians, it always had that sort of rebel feeling in it. Maybe not to anybody else, but to us, it evoked that sort of feeling, and how we can translate that to add in, you know, the femininity, to find the balance within the contrast of that rebellion and sensibility, which was always, you know, what really, really inspired us.
And also you know, like we always said, we want to have contrast. So like a bit harder and the soft, you know, like, which is like also stemming from our, you know, like twinness, you know, like that we have that duality, but then it complements each other. So I think that was always really important for us. You know?
And I think that still is, even though, of course, now it is so much dependent on the materials that are available, that they also play a big part in the research and the inspiration process. But I think that finding the balance between two contrasts is still there.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Amazing.
And nature is, of course, you know, big inspiration, because I mean, you just walk outside into a forest, and you know what nature has to offer. It's just mesmerizing, you know, if people get off their phones and actually like be present in the moment and see what's actually all around them. I mean, right now we are like in the countryside in Germany at our mom's house, and she lives next to the forest, and you know, like just walking to the river and like the forest is like a huge source of inspiration.
I think every print we have done in the past was inspired by
nature.
Yeah. alfalfa to flowers to you name it.
Ah, very good, very good. And you connected us back to that, the music bit as well, because that's where you started. Yeah,
Exactly.
great. That's very good. Today we have a theme. This particular issue is the theme is leadership. What does leadership mean to both of you?
Leadership to me means that you have a clear vision, but then also can communicate that clear vision with the people that you are working with.
Amazing, thank you.
And that you, that you sort of like tap into your higher purpose and empower not just yourself, but also empower whoever you can empower, people, planet. I think that is great leadership.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you very, very much for this. And how important is fashion leadership? Like leading in terms of, in fashion as an area, as an industry? How important is leadership?
You mean in terms of trends, or?
You could tell me. It could be in terms of trends, in terms of style, in terms of initiative. Yeah.
I think it's important in any industry, no matter if fashion or not. It's important to, and I feel, the more we tap into conscious fashion, there is more going on towards this conscious leadership, which is what we find really inspiring. And I think that is, something that is very valuable. And good leadership is important in any industry, and especially with the sort of green-minded businesses, to have leadership that is transparent, that is trustworthy. I think that will elevate the entire industry.
And also about, like connecting with each other and with nature and with the environment, like that it's really not about like, like the old model, which is like everyone is, like competition towards each other, because especially in the field of sustainability, you cannot do it alone. So you have to come to terms with that, like you alone don't get very far. So why don't we do this together, and instead of like thinking in that old competitive way, to think in a way of like, we are all connected together, we're all connected to each other, and why we are in this together, and together we can create a much bigger change, So I think it's a whole change happening right now, towards a more, towards a more, like a different model of working, which is not competitive and not egoistic, but like thinking about community and how we can change the world together for the better,
and how we can have the biggest impact together.
Biggest impact together. That's amazing. That's quite transforming for anyone listening. You'd be transformed by the answer you've just given. Just there, how we see previously being there to be competitive, to be the only winner, but now going to move towards actually collectiveness and ensuring that we are all sustainable as a planet. That's quite transformation. Thank you very much. Now I'll give you some of the attributes for great leaders. Attributes or characteristics of a great leader.
Vision, confidence, trustworthiness,
authenticity.
Authenticity, yes. Responsibility, action.
And
communication.
And generosity, to give back, because I am sure every great leader had a great role model, that shared a lot with him or her. And I think anyone who had that will also give that back.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you very much for that. So what gaps do you see in leadership in the fashion industry?
What gaps?
Do you see any gaps in terms of gaps? Yeah. Like if, for example, you're looking at a particular firm, maybe that's a fashion brand or brand house, that you feel that if only I was the leader there, you know, that's a situation, gaps that you see that can help to change the fashion industry, but in terms of leadership.
I mean, the thing that I hope will change, but I think it's very consumer driven. So, you know, the leadership will listen to the consumer. So again, there's actually power to the people, even though a lot of consumers aren't aware about it, is the impact of the high street on the environment, and how hopefully that can shift into a more conscious way of consuming, and therefore brands, even if they make a lot of money right now, will also shift their business models. And whoever is in power there, that they will take those, that they will take the right steps to be a great leader.
Amazing. I love that. Thank you very much. Thank you. Now, that's what are you most proud of?
What are we most proud of? I think it's difficult to pinpoint it to one thing. You know, it's like, I think what I'm the most proud of is like constantly trying to evolve to a better version of myself, and leaving a better impact, you know, with that. So because it's so easy, you know, we could have just like continued doing what we have been doing, you know, like, and continued London Fashion Week and like be in the limelight there, and, you know, like, you know, but it wasn't, it was stagnant, you know. And now to evolve to where we are now, it took a lot of courage. But, you know, like even now we have to always remind ourselves we can do even better. And like, I think it's a constant progress on, like, you know, when you work on yourself, then you also work on your, you know, like on your purpose and on your work. And I think that's like a thing that I'm the most proud of, that, you know, like I always thrive for, you know, like excellence and for self-growth.
Fantastic. Thank you. Alex, do you have something to say?
Yeah, it's I guess it's always about you know, evolving to have a bigger and more meaningful impact while doing what you love, and being able to sustain the planet and yourself, of course.
Amazing. I just felt like I'm going to borrow those answers and keep them at my heart here. I just kept thinking, mind remember, heart remember, so that
anyway.
it was amazing. Thank you very much for that. And we want to know that from the beginning, it seems more like a success story for Felder Felder. What is it that you believe has made it possible for you?
I think persistence is probably the first thing, because maybe on the outside it looks like a quick success story, but, you know, from the inside or behind the scenes, it's, you know, really not giving up. And I think in most cases this is true. You know, it looks easy on the outside, but on the inside it's just not giving up, just continuing, just being persistent. And yeah, I think that's what makes a difference.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. A key message, I don't know if that's your key message as well for young designers starting out. What lesson would you give them? One key or two key messages for them?
I mean, you know, like on the one hand, I do think that you will never start out your own thing if you think too much about it, because by the time then when you're supposed to start, you're so scared that you won't do it. So, you know, you have to jump a little bit into the cold water. But, you know, like, I think it's really important to do it with a strategy, you know, like, I mean, we partly we jumped into the cold water and had then to learn from the errors we did, you know, but I think a lot of the errors we did wouldn't have needed to be done, you know, if we would have had more of a strategy. So I think whoever wants to start out, to just go for it, because, you know, if you just talk about it and plan around it forever, like, you will never do it. So there comes a point where you have to do it. But, you know, to be a bit more strategic about it and like lay out a plan and, you know, like have maybe a 1 year, like, I think it's unrealistic in these days to have like a 5-year plan, because like just so much changes all the time. But like at least have like a year planned out how you see it going, and then if at least like 70% of that is like reached, then I think you're already on a good go ahead, you know.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for that. You've also answered already something connected to this. It's to do with collaborations. How important are collaborations today in business?
It really depends like how you run your business. But I think for our business, it's a huge part of our business, you know. And I think actually, you know, when I look at big brands, you know, they also do it, you know. It's always good to get like, you know, like the network that one brand has and the other brand, to bring it together. And that's again like not thinking in competitive ways, but like in ways of how can we monetize and maximize our impact together.
I think it's cross-pollination is always a good thing, because, you know, you sort of like grow different seeds in different places, and, you know, something new comes out of it and will inspire or encourage or empower different communities. So I think it's a really good aspect of working in business.
But it's, of course, it's very important that, you know, like the values of the brands are aligned, because, you know, like, I mean, I know we know we wouldn't work with like a fur company or, you know, like a cigarette company, like, you know, like there's just like so many companies where we know this would not really, you know, like be a good collaboration for our brand.
Yeah, that's of course, yeah. And even if it can be tempting, you know, for young designers, I think in the long run it pays off to hold off and, you know, stick to your values.
Stick to your values. That's important, to keep the alignment.
Exactly, yeah.
Thank you very much for that. So I'm going to take you back in time to your 14-year-old selves. And each of you have to answer it individually. Daniela, you go first. What key message would you give her today?
To believe in herself more and to trust her intuition.
Fantastic. That's a good one. Thank you. Annette?
It's along those lines. Yeah, it's all gonna be fine.
Just believe in yourself, and trust it will be fine.
Breathe, you know, don't forget to breathe, you know, it's
fantastic. Thank you. And what future do you envision for women?
I think, you know, in the future, or like maybe already now, you know, I think, I wish that, you know, we don't even have to talk about it anymore, you know, that there are equal rights, exactly the same as about race and about, you know, like other minority, you know, like, I mean, women, I know it's not a minority group, but like in general, I think it should just not be a subject anymore. I think it should just be expected that it's equal.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And what characteristics do you have for your ideal stellar woman?
Characteristic for your ideal woman?
Ideal stellar woman. The ideal
stellar woman. I think it's like playing like the same how we get inspired for our designs, you know, like to have some, you know, like contrasting attributes, you know, like she should be fierce but feminine, you know, she should be confident but not arrogant, you know, still have that softness. She should be kind but also, you know, like be standing up for herself. You know, I think it's like if you put like those contrasting attributes together, then I think you have a really good balanced person, you know.
I love that. I love that. Annette?
I'm mainly an authentic person that, you know, can also show her vulnerability. I think that is makes people always much more approachable and real, because we all are.
Fantastic, thank you. And where do we see Felder Felder in the next 5 to 10 years? I know, Danielle, you just talked about not having a plan, a long plan, but I know that you're visionary women, and therefore there is that kind of vision that is there for the brand. So where do we see it in the next 5 to 10 years?
Well, I hope that, you know, we will be able to really make an impact with our sustainable eco-tour, you know, through working with, you know, like people who have presence on the red carpet or on stage, who have even a much bigger audience to bring the message across of sustainable couture.
Amazing, thank you, and good luck with that. And do you have life mantras?
Yeah, for sure. It's a lot, but you know, I think we can definitely you know, quote a few of our teachers here. No?
Yeah, we have a lot of, I mean, we have been blessed by having been introduced to great teachers, and you know, we have a strong yoga practice and meditation practice. So I think from all the different teachings that we follow, I think to be present in the present moment is probably one of the biggest mantras that is also probably one of the hardest to follow.
That's very good. Being present.
Yeah. You know, like the only moment that's real is now, you know, the past is just the moment in the present, in the past, and the future hasn't happened yet. So, you know, the only moment that's real is now.
Okay, that's true. Thank you. Now, Annette, you start with this one. What has surprised you? What have you learned about yourself so far?
That I can actually do more things than I have believed I can do.
Amazing.
Yeah, and when I'm pushed, I will do them, and then I'm surprised by myself and also proud of myself. And that's what I try to give to my daughter, even though she usually thinks she can do things, which I love. New generation, no?
New generation, that's a good one. Thank you. And Danielle, what have you learned about yourself?
That I think what I've learned, what really helps, like also the relationship with my surrounding, is when I feel resistance, it's just coming from a point of fear, you know. So you really have to start looking in yourself why you are resistant to this, or why you get, like, you know, irritated by someone, or if you are supposed to do something and like you get you know, like you feel that resistance comes up, that normally it just stems not from a place that actually something bothers you. It's more a place of you're scared to do it. So you really have to look into that, and then when you look at it, actually the fear goes away, because if you look at that point, you know, like you realize that there's nothing to be scared of. You do it, and if it doesn't work, we find a different solution, you know. Yeah. So I think it's really, really important, because especially running a fashion brand, there is a lot of scary things. So there is a lot of resistance coming up for sure. So never to stop at that point of resistance, but to look why there is resistance coming up, and then to like figure out where that fear is coming from, and then like to be like, wow, okay, it's actually not that scary, you can do this, and you know, like we will figure it out along the way.
That's very good, thank you. Taking us towards fear, because I think that's where many people, not just women, this is where we stop. But you're talking about it in form of coming from within, just the resistance for you to take the action, and you just know that, yeah, there is fear. So and I wanted you to take us beyond that point, because I felt that fear is a big one. Really, is there anything that you can tell us that you do personally to actually take that step? from where you've been feeling the fear, and maybe an example. I don't know if I'm clear as
I think what's really important is in our life is to have, like, first of all, we have a routine, like, because I feel like in the morning you get up and like all, like the things that could go wrong come up like mostly in the morning. So I think it's really important to start the day with a routine that works for you. And I'm not saying you have to do like 2 hours, but like even 10 minutes in the morning will already make an impact on the day that you have, So we always start our day with like breathing exercises and meditations and positive mantras, and then like a little workout. And I think if you start your day already with like that kind of more positive mindset, the rest of your day will be more positive as well, So I really feel a difference if I'm traveling and then like busy with friends or something and I miss a couple of days, I do feel a difference of my state of mind, So I think it's really important to integrate a routine into your life.
And I think when you have that morning routine, you also automatically can fall back onto it throughout the day. It's almost like muscle memory or nervous system memory. So it will, conscious or subconscious, it will definitely benefit throughout the day.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for that. Now, before we finish up, we have always, I know that failure is one of the things that stops people from starting.
For sure.
Just the fear of failure.
Yeah.
And have you faced failure before? How have you overcome that?
I mean, we come back to persistence. If you stop at the point of failure, you literally don't come very far at all. You don't come down the road.
I think the most valuable lesson I've learned is that failure is just an opportunity to learn and grow, and I think you really have to see failures as opportunities, and most people who are really successful, like they have gone through huge failures, and it's just a matter of not making that failure stop you, but like to really be like, okay, this didn't work, how can we make it work, and then really not like, I think our biggest the biggest mistake we've done in the past is that we tried to do the same thing, although that failed, and like we're repetitive with the same thing over and over again, and eventually we're like, what, this doesn't.
But that's everything that Dani said comes into place there, to be able to step back from your failure and to put in place a strategy, and then follow through with a different approach from that failure or challenge or opportunity that has arisen from it, and be able to step away from it and not be drowning within the failure.
And I think also, what is it called, like, when you have been punched and you're like on the floor, like I think the
knockout,
and then the recovery time, like I think you can't feel too sorry for yourself too long on the floor, like you really have to like, okay, I get up, it's hurting, but I'm getting up and I'm going to do it, like, so I think it's really important not like to fall into the victim role and like to feel sorry for yourself for too long. Of course, you can be sad about something, and it's important to, acknowledge those feelings. It's really important to be like, okay, I feel sad right now, this wasn't great, and let it out, cry for, I don't know, like 5 minutes or a day, but then to also be like, okay, well, I've done this now, I let it out, and now I'm getting up and like, let's do this,
And I think with that also the spiritual practice helps, because that time gets shorter, the stress time gets much shorter.
Wow, thank you. That was entrepreneurship lesson. Any entrepreneur would definitely benefit from that answer, because it's so much it was full, really full. There was just so much that you gave me, and I'm sure you've given other Stellar Women subscribers, readers, and all our followers. Thank you. Now, before we leave, we always want our Stellar Women to leave a challenge for our readers to help them grow into world leaders that they are called to be. So, if each one of you could leave one challenge to make these women, the fierce women that you talked about, and become the stellar women that they need to be, what is that one challenge that we want our readers to take today from you?
The challenge, okay. I think a really good challenge for yourself is, and I think especially for women who are interested to be a stellar woman, is like, who do you really want to be? Like as a woman, as a person, like really like focus not so much about your perception of like what others want you to be, but who do you want to be and which impact do you want to leave in this world? And I think when you really work from that angle, from within, then, like you stop caring so much about the outside. And I think that's a really great place to start being authentic.
Amazing. Thank you, Daniela, for that. Thank you very much. And Annette, do you want to add to that? What's your one challenge you want to leave?
I would say that, ask yourself, how can you leverage your own skills and abilities to empower one person, one other woman, and see the impact of that? Because sometimes when you think about those bigger like impact on the world, impact on the environment, it's very overwhelming. So I'm sure there is one person, one woman in your surrounding that you can empower and have a direct impact and pollinate her to fly.
Wow, I've had such an amazing time. I've just learned so much. Thank you, Ellen. Thank you, Danielle. Thank you so much for this class.
No, thank you.
It wasn't an interview, it was a class. Thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. Thank you from the depth of my heart. Thank you so much. I hope other people benefit like I have benefited in this session with you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. So thank you very much. This is Annette and Daniela of Felder Felder. Thank you so much for sharing your time and sharing your knowledge and giving us your experiences to make a difference in other women's lives. You've definitely made a difference in my life, and I hope other women will be inspired and make a change. This is what Stellar Woman magazine is all about. It's about bringing you these thriving women's stories, these stellar women's stories that you can tap from, make a change in your life and thrive and make a change in your families, your community. And we believe with that, the world will become a brighter and a better place. So until next time, thank you very much. Thank you, ladies.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Good to end.